So on the immigration law, what do you think? Because you have also practiced as a lawyer, the right of appeal has been taken in so many cases. So how you see, because a lot of people are suffering now because this right has taken a lot of things away from the people.
Well, I think the tragedy of the last 10 years, one of the things is that how our different public services have been smashed. They've been cuts year after year, and they've taken them right to the bone. And that now they're chopping off the parts. That's where they are. And in the legal sense, what has been happening is those people who have been practicing, they've felt this whole cut. So that you're struggling with now finding people who want to do work on legal aid. And the problem with that is that for any system to operate, you need to have a good, strong judicial system. That is the right check and balance. Because if you lose that, then a lot of injustices take place. Many people are then not able to fight for their justice, for their fairness. And that then has a consequences for society as a whole. And we've seen now, as because of these cuts, one of the consequences is what happened to Windrush generation. You know, Windrush generation, people who came here in the 60s, who given all their life in building Britain, and when they came towards the end of their life, they found themselves saying that you're not a British, when they in fact were British. They came here, they were part of the British colonies, yeah? They were British citizens, yeah? And then do you prove that? How do you get all that? And then people lost their jobs as well. They lost their homes as well. People who were needed hospital treatment, dying towards the end of their life, they lost their life as well. And then even when this whole issue blew up in the face of the government, you had the resignations of the Home Secretary. But the truth is, they still haven't sorted it out. Yeah, years, you know, they promise they'll get it sorted out, and people have already died, but they still haven't been able to get proper compensation. They still haven't been able to give proper sort of indication, the impact of what is had. And on top of that, they're now trying to push some of the European Union to be sort of caught into this. Because if we don't handle these European citizens who are already residing here, 3 million plus, even if it's a small fraction, who are not being handled properly, you're going to have another Windrush with the European Union's citizens. That again is not acceptable.
Rush and Windrush, but now we'll continue with the same system because now we're discussing about the judicial system. Recent cuts in the legal aid, what do you think about those?
Well, I think it's important that we balance this out, that we don't get to a place where people can't access justice. So those people who need help, they should be given that. So I think one of the things government needs to do is look at the justice system and see where we are now and what are the changes that's needed. And I think that would mean certain restoration of legal aid.
Mr. Khan, you are one of the politicians and also the member of parliament who has raised concern about in advance, very much advance, prior to the release of these results of GCSEs and A levels. So how you have seen this, because now the government also trying to rectify this, but the damage has been done. So what is your say on it?
Well, I find it very disappointing, and I find frustration actually through this whole process. I was involved with Equality Review. We have an excellent team who worked through Equality Review looking at all this issue. And they reached out to well over 800 people who would be concerned with what's happening with this grade prediction. And all of them indicated that they were concerned with what the government was doing and what the implication is going to be as a result of that. And this report was then shared with government. Government was challenged with this. They were asked questions. Even 2 days before the results came out, I asked the minister questions on this, you know, because we already seen what had happened in Scotland, and this sort of 40% of reduction of these grades of people. We knew it's going to, because each person whose grade has been under-predicted like this, or given a lower grade, will have an impact on their life, their place at the universities. And he was too busy giving us assurance, nothing to worry about. And then when it happened, it became clear it was no different than what had happened in Scotland, and it was no different than what our report had said will happen. So they were warned, they don't listen. And that, I think, is the key problem. If you look at COVID-19, same thing comes through, that the government doesn't learn from this lesson from these experiences. And the same thing happened now, where they're still struggling with the whole issue. There are many people, who are now struggling because they may end up with resitting exams, or they may end up with having no place now because the change the government did was left too late. And many universities had already sort of accepted, rejected different offers. So they put the whole university system into a mess as well. So I think they really need to get their act together, and I think they need to listen to these difficulties for the next year. Otherwise, what you will see is this rolling into next year further. And having a further impact, because many of those students now who have been hit with this year, they will be trying next year as well. And those people coming through for next year will also be hit. So it will be a double whammy coming together. And that's one of the other issues which they still haven't dealt with, which we still have a deep concern, is the whole issue of BME, the children, the black children, the Muslim children, Pakistani Kashmiri children, and others. And one of the issue which has come through is that there is a problem in the grade prediction, because the grades the teachers predict often actually are lower for the BME students. They're overall, they're usually higher of the whole students, but for the BME, they're lower. But then when they suppress this down because they think the teachers have predicted it higher, then what you end up is the BME children, our children, starting off with lower, and then they get suppressed again because the overall is,
do you think
and that's
this
not
will
good.
be this will be a talk only, or on this one there will
Sorry?
be a inquiry or some kind of I will say commission on it, so that will also reveal a public report that this was actual reality, or this will be under carpeted?
Look, at the moment, what they've done is they've been trying to sort out this sophisticated system, which they messed it up. Then they've gone back to say, well, just accept what the teachers' predictions are. And then the problem I've shared with you at the moment is it doesn't actually quite help the BME students, because there's evidence of that the teachers, for whatever reason, subconscious level bias or whatever it is, they undermark the prediction for the BME students. So it's still not helping us, because in the past, the BME students could actually work hard, and then actual result they could achieve better. So therefore, the damage is minimum in that sense. But now, because they're not sitting actual exams, they can't even lift themselves up. So they are left with the prediction, the under prediction, which the teachers do of the BME students. And that's not right, because it's their life as much as anybody else's life, and their lives should have same chances, same opportunities as anyone else.
So yes, this is a country of equal opportunity, Mr. Khan. I move forward. Do you think that our parliament will take the accountability from the sitting government about the issue of the COVID-19, how they have dealt it? Will there be any kind of inquiry or some kind of accountability in this sense?
Look, I've said a long time ago that we need to have an independent inquiry. And the reason for that is because this is something very serious, what has happened here. The loss of life is huge. And then on top of that, this sort of pandemic can happen again. And if we don't learn the right lessons, then the mistakes will be made again. And we can't afford that. So there has to be an independent inquiry. I think government has got themselves now into a position where they're accepting it. The question then is, when exactly should that happen? When is it the right time? So I think the sooner they do that, the better it is, to be honest, because there will be lessons which will come through, which will actually help everyone. And we will know then also where the fault has been, where has government been negligent, and what is that they need to do to rectify that.
What our opposition is doing in this country about the situation of the nursing homes, especially with the old homes, where the people have in the care homes have suffered. So what opposition is going to suggest to the health ministry and also to the NHS, and also what solution you are going to suggest? Because a lot of population who have suffered, it was our older generation.
That's right. But look, I think the first point is, as an opposition, our attitude has been that, look, in this emergency, this pandemic, we're all in it together. Both government and the opposition's aim is exactly the same, to do the best for the people of Britain. And wherever we feel the government is making a mistake, it is our duty to point that out so that that mistake can be rectified as soon as possible. For that, it's important that we have a government which does listening. Because if you don't listen, then you're not going to change. You'll carry on with bulldozing things through the way you want. On this specific question that you've asked, as an opposition, we've been saying this, that look, what you're doing, the way you are allowing this people to go into old people's home is just not right. We need to have those checks and balances. We need to make sure that the PPE is available in old people's home. So all that is needed, yeah? And they were too slow. And that's why we lost so many people in this process. And I think now there are two important big things. One is, do we basically have a system which is about being able to trace where the issue is? So what exactly is happening with this trace system? Are the government doing enough? And all the evidence we are getting is that whilst they said that this will be a world-beating system, it's nowhere near that. You know, we're not anywhere near that. And what we're doing is not enough. We need to up our game on that. So track and trace system works properly, because till we get in vaccination, our savior is this track and trace. And then this one also requires that there's a better coordination with local authorities, doing some of this tracing work more at a local base. So that coordination from national and local government, more clarity, that also is needed, which is not quite clear. Some of the data which the government is actually providing, it has to be available so that local people, the local government can very quickly identify who these individuals are. And then through that, they can then take steps. And if you can't identify, then you're losing time. And the more time those infected person has, more risk is somebody else will catch it and the virus spreading further. So that system, I think, needs to be ironed out. It needs to be improved so that it works very effectively, both coordinated from local and national level. That, I think, is absolutely vital. And second is ultimately getting the vaccination. And then for that, I think the key point is, it's going to come. You know, there's about 150 trials taking place all over the world. One of them is going to be successful. I think more than one will be successful ultimately. Usually the ratio of where they are now is 1 in 10. So I'm sure there will be drugs available for this. For then, what we need to do is make sure that we are ready for this. Because, you know, trying to get the vaccination through to all the nation, it's a huge logistical problem. We know how they struggle with PPE. So
Yes,
get that system sorted now.
I think you have taken this point very beautifully, that this point is very important, because how the government has taken the situation of PPE, because I think, yes, we have a very good NHS, we have a fantastic staff, we have a dedicated staff, but how they have been treated and how they have been equipped with to fight with this pandemic. So what is your say on it?
Well, look, I think that they've been improving to that extent. You know, some of the difficulties which was being experienced, that's been ironed out. Thank God for that, you know. I think the price we have paid has been huge. One of the things I think is also what happened to the BME community as a whole and the BME medical staff. You know, why is it suddenly we're seeing huge number of people who have been having impact in the medical profession are from the BME background? Again, there's a whole issue of discrimination that has been taking place. Those are the reviews the government has taken out. Again, some of the solutions, the whole chapter was taken out by the government. And instead, what the government has done is they asked for another review. As a BME communities, they know the impact. They've been feeling the impact. They know that twice or four times they're more likely to be. Now, there are lots of reasons why this is happening, and it's all linked to the systems. We need to then not have another review, but actually act on it. And I feel very uncomfortable, the government asking for another review now, when, we've had so many different reviews which shows about discrimination, which needs to be tackled. The Black Lives Matter, the whole international movement has indicated this as well. So there's an urgency of doing things. We have some 200 different recommendations from different reviews from the past. Government doesn't want to do anything, but wants another review. This sort of thing is not acceptable, and they need to really pull their socks off and get on with it.
Because of the time restraint, Mr. Afzal, you have mentioned in your early conversation that your forefathers, your parents are from the Kashmir. And recently, even almost 1 year, the Kashmir status has been changed by the Indian government. And especially there is a curfew, there is a lot of issues about the lockdown. What you have done and what is your say on this issue?
I think, look, as elected member of parliament, my job is to be the voice. Wherever there's human rights abuses taking place, wherever in the world, and as a member of Labour Party, human rights is at the heart of our values. So we will always do that. And I've been doing this. I've challenged the government, I've challenged the Prime Minister, I've challenged the Foreign Minister many times on the subject. And the problem really is that currently this complete lockdown, what the Kashmiris have been experiencing in occupied Kashmir, is unparalleled anywhere in the world. We all have some experience of lockdown, of COVID-19, but actually Kashmiris has been total isolation from the world. And they have also been not only locked down with this physical, the way we have, but they also have been locked down with the technology, with the 4G, for example. There's not available in the occupied Kashmir. The best they've been able to have is 2Gs. And we know from the modern technology and the system that me and you are using now, it's a 4G system, so we can actually communicate. They've been cut off. The whole economic strangulation, which has been happening, is also killing them off economically. So it's a health issue as well, there's economic issue as well, there's a freedom issue as well. They not even allow anybody from outside, whether it's a media or a charities, to go in to help them out. That extent is unacceptable. And on top of that, they've changed their own laws, the 370 and 35A, which gave this Kashmir as a special status in line with the UN Security Council resolutions. And they have violated all that as well, So the agreement they have had with the occupied Kashmir was through that. So by doing that, they have become an occupying force. And you see this beautiful country with millions of people under a huge army there, something like 800,000 armed forces.
Mr.
It is the most concentration of army there.
Another question for you, because a lot of historians say that this issue was left by the Great Britain. When the British government left the subcontinent, they left it because of the time restraint. What is your quick answer on this point?
I think not what historians say, it's a fact. There was a British Raj. When the British Raj left, this was an area which was left unresolved. And here we are, 72, 73 years down the road, the issue is still not resolved. Every time you ask the British government, their answers usually is this is a bilateral matter between India and Pakistan. Totally false. It's nothing, it doesn't match the ground reality. Because if you look at this whole issue, the prime people in this dispute are the Kashmiris. So how can it be just between India and Pakistan? And then if you look at what has happened in Ladakh now, recently in a few months, that is China's engagement with India and that land in Ladakh. So shows that China is also involved. So you have China, Pakistan, and India, three nuclear powers, all have gone war with one another It's such a dangerous place. And at the heart is the Kashmiris who are not having a say. So it's not acceptable. Britain needs to do more.
Mr. Khan, it was very nice interaction with you. I wish we could have more time for more discussions and more questions. At the end, what is your message for our youngsters who are watching this show, especially the students who have got the results? They have seen today your profile as a solicitor, as a laborer, as a bus driver, as a policeman, and now as a member House of Parliament.
Well, my message to our young people is never give up hope. Keep your hope. And ultimately, as a young people, look at me as example you're given. I came to this country with not a single pound in my pocket. I left school without any qualifications. And for me to achieve all this, that means they too can achieve it. And it also means they have opportunity even to be the prime minister of this country. So they should aim high and they should work hard. Both of these things are with them, not with anyone else. So go for it.
And what is your message for our viewers who are watching this show today?
Well, all I'm saying to them as well is, look, work hard and aim high. The rule applies to all of them. But look, we live in a beautiful country. Britain is an amazing country with amazing history as well. And what we need to do is make most of this richness and diversity that we have. And for that, reach out to one another. We're all fellow human beings. It doesn't matter, what your background is, forefathers, but ultimately, we have one world, one humanity, and let's reach out to one another and enrich our lives.
Mr. Khan, it was a great honor for me and a great pleasure for my team to have you in this show. Keep watching Sheffield Live. Viewers, I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. Keep watching Sheffield Live TV. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Khan.